From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Sports Line.
Hey there, Titans Talk on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us on Victory Monday. First time this season. Titans a winner yesterday, holding on for dear life down the stretch against the Raiders 24-22 at Nissan Stadium. And it was really a tale of two halves, a lot like week number 1 against the Giants. The Titans offense stormed out of the gate. They were even better yesterday, 265 yards in the first half, 24 points, which was a season high for the Titans in the first half. They scored touchdowns on their first 3 possessions. They got a big field goal right before halftime to go up by 2 full touchdowns, which proved to be important. But then the offense struggled after that, couldn't get anything going in the second half, and it was up to the defense, which certainly bent throughout the course of the day, but ultimately did not break to hold on to that game. And the defense gave up just shy of 400 total yards, 300 yards in the passing game, but they were able to get off the field in some critical moments. They held the Raiders to just 1 of 12 on third downs throughout the course of the day. And when Vegas got into the red zone, the Titans held them to just 2 touchdowns. And that's a huge difference in the game. Titans got to the red zone 3 times yesterday and scored touchdowns all 3 times. The Raiders got to the red zone 6 times and walked away with just 2 touchdowns and then 3 field goals. That was the entire day. Titans got an interception on 1 trip down there. Kevin Byard coming up with the deflection when Darren Waller was unable to come up with it. And they held the Raiders into settling for field goals on 3 different occasions. That's enormous, because in this league, we know it's an offensive league. It's about the quarterbacks. It's about what you can do offensively. So it is unlikely that you are going to be able to completely shut people down or hold them to 100 yards in a game or something like that. The days of that type of football are long gone and over. But when the other team has a drive going, if you can stand tall and force them to kick field goals as opposed to getting all the way to the end zone, if you can create a turnover in the red zone, that can go a long way. And yesterday, that was an enormous difference for Tennessee. It won them the game, along with that stop on the 2-point conversion there with just over a minute left. There are still plenty of warts on this football team, but they avoided 0-3 yesterday, and that is monumental for the rest of the season. There's a long way to go within the division, within the AFC. They had to get that game yesterday, and I think especially the way it played out in the second half, it could have been completely demoralizing if they don't get those late stops. Because of the way week 1 happened, where they frankly probably had a game they should have won against the Giants and really blew it in the second half. Couldn't hold on to the lead. They give up a 2-point conversion late, then they miss a field goal on the final play of the game. That was a gutting loss. Then you go to Buffalo and you just get beat down by a really good Bills team. To come back, had they blown the lead yesterday and fell to 0-3 for the first time since 2009, I think you have real questions if this team starts to spiral a little bit. You have 4 of the next 5 on the road, 3 of the next 4 within the division. It could really get late pretty early if that was the case. But the Titans were able to win, and now you can kind of flip that script around a little bit and think of the opportunity in front of them in a division right now that appears to be wide open. But there are definite concerns, and we saw that again yesterday. The offensive line, I thought, was better yesterday, but still not great. And I don't know how much of that was actual improvement up front versus facing the Raiders instead of the Bills. You got a little bit more in the passing game yesterday, but some of that was Derrick Henry and Dontrell Hilliard out of the backfield. Robert Woods had a very nice first half, but like a lot of people, struggled to get open and make plays in the second half. Treylon Burks had 1 catch. It wasn't spread around a ton. but the Titans made some plays there. They had their best rushing effort, but yet you're 3 weeks into the season, Derrick Henry's yet to rush for 100 yards in a game. That's the bread and butter of this team. Defensively, they're still struggling to stop the run. The pass rush is non-existent since the first half of Game 1 against the Giants. A huge part of that is the injuries on that side of the ball. But they still have to deal with that at this point in time and hope that Bud Dupree can come back sooner rather than later. And then the secondary. Again, injury is a bit of an issue back there. But right now, they are struggling to stop teams throwing the ball. The Raiders had 300 yards passing. Terrence Mitchell was in the game pretty much all day yesterday. Caleb Farley nowhere to be seen. And meanwhile, Mac Hollins is going up and posting a career day for the Raiders. All of those things are question marks for Mike Vrabel and the Titans as they move forward. But the good news tonight, as we sit here on Titans Talk, is that they talk about all those things today after a win. There's a lot of improvement that needs to be made, but it is way easier to go to work and get excited for what you have to do the next week coming off a win, and that's where the Titans are today. What were your impressions of the game yesterday? How excited were you to see the Titans win? How many issues do you think they corrected to get that done yesterday? And how concerned are you about some of those things I just laid out in terms of this team moving forward? Our phone lines are open tonight, 737-7767, 737-PLUS. Call us up. We want to get your thoughts on the game yesterday, what you saw and what you think about this team right now, sitting at 1-2 in what appears to be a much more wide-open AFC South than some people expected. The Jaguars with a monster win yesterday on the road in LA against the Chargers in blowout fashion. I don't know who saw that coming. And they're now 2-1. The Colts beat the Chiefs at home at Lucas Oil Stadium yesterday. I know no one saw that coming, especially after the way Indy played in the first 2 weeks of the season. Of course, the Titans beat an AFC West opponent as well, get their first win, and now they get set to go to Indianapolis on Sunday for a noon kickoff. We go to the phones for our first call tonight. Say hello to Eric. Eric, good evening.
Good evening, Steve. As always, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Hey, listen, here's my thoughts on the game. When, of course, we took the ball and marched right down the field and scored on the first series of the game like we'd done the previous two games, my thoughts were, okay, third straight game, we scored on our first drive. What's going to happen after this? Because I was not too optimistic because of the way the first two previous games had went. But then when we scored a touchdown on the second drive and third drive, I was pleasantly surprised and real happy. The way we mixed up the plays, getting guys like Swain, getting the ball more to Derrick Henry, Robert Woods in the first half, the way we were just running plays and stuff, and I was very happy the first half. But then in the second half, to just go to the complete opposite and just play so awful. The fact that we didn't score a single point in the second half, and here's the frustrating thing about this to me, and I think it's frustrating the Titans fans. It's the first game to me, like in the Giants. It seems like every time we get up on the team, we can't get that one last score we need, whether it's a field goal or touchdown to put a team away, and we let them right back in the game, and we get to a point where we almost blow this, and I'm sitting there saying, I cannot believe, because I'm a season ticket holder, that this is happening again. A few of the things in the second half that kind of frustrated me. One was, of course, listen, I didn't have a problem with them going for it on the fourth down. Maybe the ball that Tannehill threw to Treylon Burks was a little bit behind him, but he still could have made the play on that. There was also another play. I don't know if it was to the tight end. If you remember the game, I think it was third down, and he was near the first down. He wasn't touched. I thought he could have either rolled over, got the first down, or gotten up, or done something to get the first down. I just was surprised he kind of gave him up himself, because since he wasn't touched, he could have picked up the first down, and we wound up punting. But then, of course, that whole almost disaster where Tannehill fumbles the ball on the last drive, we can't run out the clock. It's just things like that's just frustrating. And I don't know how you feel about this, Steve. It's just frustrating to me. I don't know what it is with the second half, if it's play calling by the coaches, whether it's offense or defense, whether it's players not executing the plays that need to be executed in the second half, whether or not, and there's been a lot of talk about this, us making game adjustments, whatever it is, it's just so frustrating to see that. another thing, I don't know if you agree with me on this or not. One of the things, and I thought this was a mistake, and there are a lot of people went back and forth on this, on that last drive when the Raiders, I guess, because of the crowd noise, it seemed it was loud during that last drive when we backed him up because of a delayed game for 5 yards. It was 4th and 15, and Mike Vrabel calls the timeout. You know, my feeling was I just think that quelled the momentum of the crowd. I understand you probably want to get the proper defensive coverage or set on the defense, but I just felt like it gave the Raiders enough time to draw up a play and pick up the first down. Maybe they still do, I don't know, but I just felt like the Raiders were just so disoriented and disorganized on offense. I just felt like we should have just ran on the play. I mean, but, you know, I could be wrong. I'm just glad, even though they got the touchdown, we were able to stop it. But it was just so frustrating to see them pick up 3 straight first downs on 4th down plays. But at least we broke up the 2-point conversion. And I'm just saying we just really dodged one. And as the season goes on, you just can't do that because it could come back to bite you. Like it did the Giants. It luckily didn't yesterday, but it's just the things I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
Always good to talk to you, Steve. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
Eric, thanks for the call. A lot of good stuff there. And you're right. It was sweating bullets at the end because you just cannot afford to give away games like the Titans did in Week 1. You only get 17 of these opportunities. And yesterday was another game where they had it in control. The winning probability was way in their favor the entire game, and then all of a sudden the Raiders have a chance to tie it at the end. And you just can't live like that in the NFL. You don't want to be in that situation. I will say this about the 4th and 15 call. Generally, you don't want to call a timeout there. I think what happened yesterday, though, is you got to realize Terrence Mitchell, who probably didn't win over a lot of Titans fans in his debut yesterday, was playing pretty much every snap after being signed by a team on Wednesday. We can speak about the bigger issues of that, the idea that Caleb Farley's not out there after being drafted in the first round last year. But for that specific moment, I think you're thinking, if you're Shane Bowen or Mike Vrabel, we've got a guy out here who we've known for 72 hours. And this is the ball game right here. Let's make sure he knows exactly what he's doing. Unfortunately, Mitchell's the guy who in 3-deep coverage let Mac Hollins get by him and catch a 48-yard pass. That is inexcusable. It cannot happen. But I think that's part of what led to the timeout in that situation. In terms of the overriding theme of the call, though, that's exactly right. I think maybe the most frustrating aspect of the Titans start, and in a lot of ways you throw the Bills game out. That was a crazy environment of their first home game. They just blitzed the Rams, the Super Bowl champions, on the road. That's a team a lot of people think is the Super Bowl favorite, despite what happened to them in Miami yesterday. You go up there, that was just a cauldron of emotion against a really good team. But the other 2 games, I think you really have to be frustrated with the second half. And even the Buffalo game, they were not nearly as good in the second half as they were in the first half. But just strictly the 2 home games, where they were in control and then all of a sudden couldn't do anything. I think the thing that they've got to figure out there is one of the mantras of this team. One of the things they hang their hat on at the end of the night is their toughness and their ability to finish. They talk about finish all the time, whether that is finishing a play to the whistle, whether that's finishing a drive, whether that's finishing a 3rd down play defensively to get off the field, or whether it's finishing a ball game. They talk about and preach finish all the time. And right now this team is not finishing. At least not consistently enough. The offense is just non-existent in the second half of games. Just isn't there. They've scored 13 points. They've scored 7 points in 3 second halves. 7 total points. None in the last 2 weeks. Defensively, it hasn't quite been that bad, but they've been on the hook trying to make all of these stops. And there have been X-plays. There have been some bad moments. There have been conversions that can't happen. That's the type of stuff that they got to get better at. And Eric pointed out a couple of the things like Austin Hooper catching the ball right at the sticks, but not being touched and grounded. I thought he got a bad spot on the play, and it probably was a first down anyway. But if you catch that ball, roll over. Roll over. I mean, know where you are on the field and make sure, don't leave it up to chance. I probably wouldn't have gone for fourth down where they did. But I'm actually okay in the sense that in this conversation, where is the urgency? Where is that moment to make that play that Eric, the caller, was talking about that leads to the score that puts the game away? I think that was the goal by Mike Vrabel. I think that's what he was saying. And similarly, in the first half, Titans didn't have a very good late first half possession. They punted it back to the Raiders and gave them a chance to have 2-minute offense. Well, the Titans get a stop with some time, and Mike Vrabel called timeout and said, we're going to be aggressive here. We may only have 30-some seconds, but we're going to be aggressive and try to get a field goal because that could be big. And guess what? Titans get a good punt return from Robert Woods. They get a big pass completion to Nick Westbrook-Akina, and then Randy Bullock hits a 48-yard field goal, and it's a 14-point lead at the half. And those 3 points turned out to be mighty big in a 2-point win when you don't score again in the second half. I like the aggressiveness because this team is not going to blow your socks off with their offensive firepower, at least not yet. And so they've got to find ways to take advantage of every opportunity that they have. And they've got to find ways to finish. Because looking at this team right now and looking at the NFL, this is true of a lot of teams. But I don't see this Titans team blowing many people out. They're going to be in fourth quarter games a lot. And they're going to have to find ways to win those games. And they're going to have to finish in the way that has been emblematic of the Mike Vrabel tenure. Because they're going to be in that position a lot. And if this season is going to go anything the way they expect, or the way the fans expect, if they're going to get back to the postseason, if they're going to have a chance to win the division, they've got to finish. That is just simply the bottom line for this team. Go back to the phone, say hello to Drew. Drew, good evening.
Did you check out the schedule that they have coming up?
Yeah. What are you asking about?
They got the Colts, they got the Commanders, and then they got the Colts again.
Yep.
It's not like they're going to be playing against a Tom Brady-like team or a Pat Mahomes team or Josh Allen team.
Well, neither were the Giants or the Raiders in that regard. I mean, you can say the Bills are a great team, but they were in absolute dogfights, and they lost to the Giants in the other two games. So, I mean, I don't know if the Colts or Commanders are all that far off of those two teams.
If that was Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes or Tom Brady, they would have gotten killed. I think the only reason why they got by is because Derek Carr isn't that caliber.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think we saw what happened when they played an elite team in week 2. The Titans are not elite yet. Can they be good? Can they develop into something that looks like an elite team later in the year? I think it's possible. I think it's possible, but they're not there yet.
Can they get past the first round in the playoffs? That's another question.
Well, I mean, that's the million-dollar question for this team, and they're going to have to prove a lot of people wrong when they get there. But one of their issues right now is they've got to get to the playoffs just to make that possible. I mean, they've got to win games right now and win the games that they should win. They should have won in week 1 against the Giants. And when you look at the schedule, like I said, there's just not going to be many gimmies for this team. Maybe the Texans. You get the Texans twice. I don't think the Texans are very good. But they've played 3 games that are pretty tight to this point. And remember last year, that Lovie Smith defense forced 5 turnovers, and they were one of the teams that beat the Titans. The Titans team that last year was elite and was the #1 seed in the AFC. So I don't even think you count on those games as absolute locks to be wins. There just aren't many of those. And that's true for a lot of teams in the NFL. So if you're the Titans right now and you're struggling a bit, you've got to find a way to be in the games that you should be in and to win the games you should win. Right now, they've had 2 chances to do that. They've both come down to the wire, and they're 1-2. They lost one, they won one. The other game, they were clearly outmatched by Buffalo, at least for now. At least for now. We're going to find out a lot more about this team over the next few weeks. Colts, twice in a 3-game span. Bye week in there before the second game. Right after that, you go to Houston. You see a division opponent. So 3 of the next 4 games are against the division. We're going to know a lot more about where the Titans stand and where other teams within the AFC South and within the conference as a whole stand as we get towards the end of October. You're learning some things now in September. It's going to shake out in a big way over the next month. All right, got to take a break, but much more on the way here tonight. Phone lines open 737-7767. We'd love to hear from you. This is Titans Talk on News Channel 5 Plus.